Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier, and in this presentation I intend to try and help you move away from the Treaty of Versailles and include the other treaties, St Germain that dealt with Austria and Trianon that dealt with Hungary, Neuilly that dealt with Bulgaria, and in a separate presentation Sèvres that dealt with Turkey, for any question that may refer to the Paris peace treaties as a whole, their successes and failures, their effects on the defeated powers, and indeed on the winners, and of course their effects on peacekeeping. Now, they were all diktats. They all placed military restrictions on the defeated powers and made them accept the League of Nations, but put them on probation before they would be allowed to join. But I won't go any further on those clauses. Instead, I'll focus on the guilt clause, the territorial losses, and on reparations. Now, the guilt clause was written into all the treaties, but were all the countries as guilty as each other? How do we assess the guilt of Austria, Hungary, Turkey, or the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria? I think Austria is pretty clear, and I have covered this in my presentations on the causes of World War I. But Hungary is not so clear. The Hungarian Prime Minister, István Tisza, at first opposed a war with Serbia. Tisza feared a war with Russia, and even if the war was won, he feared that incorporating a defeated Serbia into the Austro-Hungarian Empire would increase the Slavic population, further destabilising the fragile ethnic balance and threatening Hungarian dominance. But once German support was assured, and Austria promised not to annex Serbia, Hungary enthusiastically supported the war. Bulgaria only joined the war in 1915, but when it did, it attacked Serbia, hoping to regain Macedonia, lost to Serbia in the Second Balkan War, and this helped in Serbia's defeat. It also released Austro-Hungarian forces to fight the Russians, whilst tying down Allied troops, and so helped prolong the war. So the degree of guilt is there, but it's mixed. Think of this when you consider the terms of the different treaties. Let's turn to look at the loss of territory, and let's pause to consider a point I always make with lost territory. Yes, it meant a loss of farmland, industry, and sometimes mines, but it always meant a loss of people, and this meant workers, consumers, and taxpayers, and so a huge economic loss. In the case of both Austria and Hungary, the loss of territory was considerable. It completely broke up the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which had had a population of 43 million, leaving Austria with a population of just 6.5 million, a third of whom lived in Vienna, and Hungary a population of only just over 7.5 million. All access to the sea, important for trade, was lost. Austria was left unable to even feed itself, for whilst it had lost its vast agricultural lands, it hadn't the industrial base, lost to Czechoslovakia, to pay for food imports. It also left 3 million ethnic Germans and the same number of Hungars as minorities in other countries. Indeed, Hungary was left with a significant refugee problem. And of course, Austria was not allowed to unite with Germany. So much for the right to self-determination. As for reparations, Such was the weakened state of the Austrian and Hungarian economies that they were hardly paid anyway. It was the League of Nations that did commendable work in helping the economies of Austria and Hungary. In Austria, the League helped devise a rescue plan that brought spending in line with reduced revenues, as well as stabilising the currency by controlling interest rates, credit, and the circulation of banknotes. It also included a substantial loan. As a result, the Austrian economy, which was all but bankrupt, stabilised, the budget was balanced, and unemployment fell. Now, as for the successor states, as they were called, Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia were created from these other treaties, and along with the Treaty of Versailles, they helped to create Poland too, or really to recreate Poland. It had actually existed before World War I. But the new countries found it hard to trade with each other, because whereas, as a part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, they had previously benefited from a single market, they were now in competition with each other. And these new states failed to make Europe a more peaceful continent. German and Italian resentment at what had happened immediately comes to mind, as do the various border disputes the League had to deal with in the 1920s. And in the case of Czechoslovakia and Poland, they were weak states. Look at how easily Germany dealt with them. Bulgaria also lost important agricultural land and all access to the Mediterranean. It lost land to Greece, Romania and Yugoslavia, even though Bulgarians were in a distinct majority in each of the three regions involved. Again, what price self-determination? It left Bulgaria with an influx of refugees which posed a severe, immediate problem for the country. Bulgaria's reparations bill was quite staggering. 2.25 billion gold francs to be paid over 37 years. In relation to its national wealth, its reparations payments were the highest of all the defeated powers. In addition, Bulgaria had to hand over large quantities of railway stock and livestock to Romania, Greece and Yugoslavia, which also received 50,000 tons of Bulgarian coal for a number of years. When added to its foreign debts, its annual repayments were greater than its annual budget. Bulgaria would struggle throughout the interwar period to come to terms with the provisions of the treaty. So, I hope this gives you something to work on should you face a peace treaties question. Don't forget, if you think you might benefit from tutorials, why don't you see if we can sort something out? Just get your parents to get in touch with me at historymadeeasier@gmail.com. I'm always happy to negotiate a price. I'm in this to help, not to make a fortune, just as well. But of course, I'll have to have a slot available. Anyway, let me thank you so much for listening and wish you the very best of luck with your studies. Cheers.